What if I told you that one of Hollywood's most beautiful actresses lived her entire childhood not knowing who her real parents were? What if the woman who raised her wasn't actually her mother, and the famous movie star she called Auntie was hiding the darkest secret of her life? This isn't fiction. This is the true story of Judy Lewis, a woman who lived in the shadow of a lie so massive, so carefully constructed, that it took 3 decades before she finally learned the truth. And when she did, it shattered everything she thought she knew about her identity. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is one of Hollywood's most shocking cover-ups, a story of forbidden love, shame, and a child caught in the middle of it all. Judy Lewis was born on November 6, 1935, in a secretive hospital in Venice, California. But her birth wasn't celebrated with champagne and cigars like most Hollywood babies. No, her arrival was hidden, concealed like a crime scene. The nurses were paid off. The doctors were sworn to secrecy. And the 2 people who brought her into this world, they vanished from the hospital separately, as if they were strangers. Judy's birth certificate was falsified. Her mother's name was listed as someone else entirely. And for 31 years, Judy would grow up believing a lie that everyone around her was in on. Everyone except her. Her childhood was unusual, to say the least. She was raised by a woman named Loretta Young, a stunning actress who was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood during the 1930s and 40s. Loretta was known for her beauty, her elegance, and her devout Catholic faith. She was America's sweetheart, the kind of woman who seemed untouchable, almost angelic. But behind closed doors, Loretta was hiding something enormous. Judy was told that Loretta had adopted her, that she was a charity case, a poor little girl who needed a home. And Judy believed it. Why wouldn't she? Children trust their parents. They trust the adults who feed them, clothe them, and tell them bedtime stories. But as Judy grew older, something felt wrong. She didn't look like the other adopted children she knew. She had distinct features, a strong jawline, prominent ears, and a certain elegance that seemed oddly familiar. When she looked in the mirror, she couldn't shake the feeling that she looked like someone she knew. Someone very close to her. Loretta was incredibly strict with Judy, almost obsessively so. She controlled every aspect of her daughter's life. Judy wasn't allowed to ask questions about her past. If she brought up her adoption, Loretta would shut her down immediately, sometimes with anger, sometimes with cold silence. Loretta was also fixated on Judy's appearance, particularly her ears. From a very young age, Judy was forced to wear tight headbands and bonnets, which Loretta claimed were to fix her ears, to pin them back so they wouldn't stick out. But the truth was far more sinister. Loretta wasn't trying to fix a cosmetic flaw. She was trying to erase evidence. Evidence of who Judy's real father was. Growing up in Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s meant being surrounded by glamour, but also by secrets. The movie studios controlled everything. They controlled what the public saw, what the newspapers printed, and especially what scandals got buried. If an actress got pregnant out of wedlock, the studio would cover it up. If an actor was gay, the studio would arrange a fake marriage. Image was everything, and anything that threatened that image had to be eliminated. Judy was one of those threats. She was living proof of a scandal that could have destroyed 2 major careers, and so she was hidden in plain sight, raised as an adopted daughter, never knowing that the woman she called mother was telling the truth in the worst possible way. As Judy entered her teenage years, the whispers started. Hollywood was a small town, and people talked. Crew members on movie sets, makeup artists, hairdressers, they all knew the truth, or at least suspected it. Some of them felt sorry for Judy. Others thought it was just another Hollywood secret, nothing unusual. But no one dared to tell her. Loretta's power and influence kept everyone silent. She was a devout Catholic, attending church regularly, presenting herself as a moral and virtuous woman. The irony was suffocating. How could someone who preached about honesty and faith live such a monumental lie? But Loretta justified it. In her mind, she was protecting Judy, protecting herself, and protecting the man who was Judy's real father, a man whose career and reputation were just as valuable as her own. Judy eventually became an actress herself, though she never reached the heights of fame that her adoptive mother, had achieved. She appeared in television shows and small film roles, But she was always in Loretta's shadow. People would say, "Oh, you're Loretta Young's daughter," and Judy would smile and nod, never knowing just how true that statement really was. She got married in 1958 to a man named Joseph Tinney, a successful businessman. They had a daughter together, and for a while, Judy tried to live a normal life, away from the chaos of Hollywood. But the questions never stopped nagging at her. Why did she look so much like Loretta? Why were there no records of her adoption? Why did Loretta react so strongly whenever Judy asked about her biological parents? Then, in 1966, everything changed. Judy was 31 years old. She was at a social gathering, a casual party with friends, when someone made an offhand comment. It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was just a passing remark, the kind of thing people say without thinking. But to Judy, it was a bombshell. Someone said, "You know, you look just like Clark Gable." Judy laughed it off at first. Clark Gable. The king of Hollywood. The man with the iconic mustache and that unforgettable smile. It seemed absurd. But then she went home and looked at photographs of Gable. And she saw it. The ears. The jawline. The eyes. It was undeniable. She looked like him. And suddenly, all the pieces started to fall into place. Judy confronted Loretta. She demanded the truth. And after years of lies, after decades of deception, Loretta finally broke down and admitted it. Yes, Judy was her biological daughter. And yes, Clark Gable was her father. The two of them had had an affair in 1935 while filming a movie called The Call of the Wild. They shot the film on location in Washington state, far away from the prying eyes of the Hollywood press. Loretta was 22 years old, young, beautiful, and deeply religious. Gable was 34, already a major star, and married. Their affair was passionate but short-lived. And when Loretta discovered she was pregnant, she was horrified. Abortion was out of the question for her because of her Catholic faith. But having a child out of wedlock would destroy her career and her reputation. So she did what many actresses in her position did. She disappeared. Loretta claimed she was going to Europe for a vacation, but in reality, she went into hiding. She spent the final months of her pregnancy in a secluded house, far from the public eye. When Judy was born, Loretta placed her in an orphanage temporarily, then adopted her a few months later, pretending that she was doing a good Christian deed by taking in an orphan. The studio supported the lie. The press printed the story. And everyone moved on. Everyone except Judy, who had to live with the consequences of that lie for 31 years. Learning the truth devastated Judy. Her entire identity had been a fabrication. The woman she thought was her adoptive mother was actually her biological mother. And the man she admired from afar, Clark Gable, the legendary actor, was her father. But Gable had died in 1960, 6 years before Judy learned the truth. He had passed away from a heart attack, never publicly acknowledging Judy as his daughter. Some say he knew. Some say Loretta never told him. But either way, Judy would never get the chance to confront him, to hear his side of the story, to ask him why he let her grow up believing a lie. The revelation destroyed Judy's relationship with Loretta. How could it not? Judy felt betrayed, angry, and heartbroken. She had spent her entire life wondering who she was, where she came from, why she felt so different. And all along, the answers were right in front of her, hidden behind Loretta's carefully crafted image of piety and virtue. Judy wrote a memoir in 1994 called Uncommon Knowledge, where she detailed the entire story. She didn't write it out of revenge, but out of a need to finally tell the truth, to reclaim her identity, to let the world know that she wasn't just Loretta Young's adopted daughter. She was Loretta Young and Clark Gable's illegitimate child, a secret that Hollywood buried for decades. Loretta never fully apologized. Even in her later years, she maintained that she had done what was best for everyone involved. She believed that keeping the secret protected Judy from scandal and shame. But Judy saw it differently. She believed that Loretta's actions were selfish, that they were about protecting her own image, not about protecting her daughter. The two women remained estranged for much of Judy's later life. Loretta passed away in 2000 at the age of 87, still insisting that she had done nothing wrong. Judy, however, carried the scars of that lie until her own death in 2011 at the age of 76. Judy's story is a reminder of how cruel Hollywood could be, especially to women. Loretta Young was punished for having a consensual affair with a man, while Clark Gable faced no consequences at all. He continued to be celebrated as a leading man, while Loretta had to hide, lie, and manipulate her entire life just to maintain her career. And Judy, an innocent child, was caught in the middle, forced to live a lie that wasn't of her making. The studios enabled this behavior. They prioritized profit and image over the well-being of the people who made them rich. They silenced women, controlled their bodies, and dictated their lives. Judy's existence was inconvenient, so she was erased from the narrative, treated as a footnote in her own story. But Judy refused to stay silent. By writing her memoir, by speaking out, she made sure that her story would be remembered. She made sure that people would know the truth about Loretta Young and Clark Gable. She made sure that the little girl who was hidden away, who was lied to for 31 years, would finally be seen and heard. And that's the real tragedy of Judy Lewis's life. She deserved better. She deserved parents who were honest with her. She deserved to grow up knowing who she was. But Hollywood had other plans. Today, Judy's story is a powerful example of the dark side of fame. It's a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour, behind the red carpets and award shows, there are real people with real pain. It's a reminder that secrets always come out, no matter how carefully they're hidden. And it's a reminder that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie. Judy Lewis lived a double life for 30 years, not by choice, but because the people who were supposed to love and protect her decided that their careers were more important than her happiness. And now, decades later, we finally know her story. We finally know the truth. And we can honor her memory by making sure that stories like hers are never forgotten. Judy's relationship with her half-siblings was also complicated. Clark Gable had other children from his marriages, but they never publicly acknowledged Judy as their sister. The Gable estate never included her in any inheritance or family matters. She was an outsider, even in death. Loretta's other children, whom she had with her husband Tom Lewis, grew up knowing the truth, but they were told to keep it secret. Imagine the burden that placed on them, having to lie to their own sister, having to watch her struggle with her identity while they knew the answers all along. It was a family built on deception, and the damage it caused was immeasurable. Judy's daughter, Maria Tinney, has spoken about how the revelation affected her own understanding of her family. She grew up knowing Loretta Young as her grandmother, but learning that her mother had been lied to for so long changed how she saw everything. Maria has worked to keep Judy's story alive, to make sure that people understand the pain her mother endured. She's spoken in interviews about how Judy never fully recovered from the betrayal, how it haunted her until her final days. The trauma of living a lie, of having your identity stolen from you, doesn't just go away. It lingers, it festers, and it shapes who you become. Hollywood has changed since Judy's time, but not as much as we'd like to think. Secrets are still kept. Scandals are still buried. Powerful people still control narratives and silence those who threaten them. But stories like Judy's remind us that the truth always finds a way to surface. It may take years, even decades, but it comes out. And when it does, it forces us to confront the lies we've been told, the systems we've accepted, and the people we've idolized. Loretta Young was a beloved actress, a Hollywood icon, but she was also a woman who lied to her daughter for 31 years. Clark Gable was a legendary leading man, but he was also a father who never acknowledged his child. These are uncomfortable truths, but they're important ones. Judy Lewis's story is ultimately about identity, about the fundamental human need to know who we are and where we come from. It's about the damage that secrets can cause, not just to the people who keep them, but to the people who are kept in the dark. Judy spent 3 decades of her life not knowing her own truth, and when she finally learned it, it was too late to get the answers she deserved. Her father was dead. Her mother was defensive and unrepentant. And she was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered identity. But she did it. She survived. She told her story. And in doing so, she gave a voice to countless others who have been lied to, hidden, and erased. Judy Lewis may have lived a double life, But in the end, she made sure that her real life, her true story, would be the one that was remembered.